Welcome back to Marcelian Online, and dude, I played Havoc in 11.1 to test it out and I cannot stop playing it. I enjoyed it so much that it is, right now, one of the two main contenders for a lot of reasons. Not sure if it's OP or just fun to play, and the performance in Mythic Plus after the buffs is turning me into a believer. Let's be honest, we all know why you like and want to play Havoc Demon Hunter. Havoc Demon Hunters are cool as shit, and they have been cool for a long time. Using I-Beam to turn into a demon, doubled in size, just melt things around is really cool, but the demon huntery things makes Havoc a unique spec to play. The gliding, the mobility, the potential risk of fell rushing off into the abyss while attempting to do some of the coolest DPS shit in the game just cannot compare. I actually believe that main Havoc players are addicted to the rush of pulling off some insane shit, and they secretly are masochistic fucks enough to pretend like they didn't just fall off the platform intentionally. Because if it wasn't intentional, then bro. But I kid the reasons why everyone in raids laugh and why after 8 years people still goof with the same spells, no matter how much time passes, as I did last time I mained it back in Legion. But the 11.1 changes have turned me into a believer again. From the buffs to the spec to the talent reworks and numerous playstyles, man, I just cannot get enough of it. And if you still don't believe me, you can always pop on our streams when I play it live and constantly relapse to it, no matter how many times I tell myself I should be a Windwalker main. Our stream is live 6 days a week playing Havoc, debating on main tunes, clearing keys and raids with viewers, and generally trying not to suck, which is hard sometimes. It's hard. And definitely still harder than actually playing Havoc in 11.1, because it is indeed getting easier to play for everyone, even the non-momentum or no mover enjoyers. First, let's talk about what has changed going into Season 2. The biggest change has to be the choice node talent Inertia and Momentum. The node has been swapped around with the Unbound Chaos, first of all, for one main reason, which is that Momentum playstyle will no longer be activated by Fell Rush, but rather by Vengeful Retreat and The Hunt. How will it actually work? Inertia is going to still be an 18% damage buff for 5 seconds, and it will be activated whenever you use the Hunt or Vengeful Retreat, period. That means that you can easily get it at the start of a fight, since you normally use Hunt to initiate combat anyway, but also the swap to Vengeful Retreat makes it more reliable and less annoying to do. I'm talking about those situations where you would have to Fell Rush into bad shit or in weird places, or worse, cannot Fell Rush at all, and it's of course not tied to Immolation Aura anymore. Vengeful Retreat does not have that issue and has been made even easier to play with another change that comes next season. Fellblade has an improved interaction with Vengeful Retreat, where now, if you Vengeful Retreat and you are too close to the target, Fellblade will cancel the backflip and keep you glued to your target, as opposed to before, where you would Fellblade and still continue your backflip into being outside of melee range. What this means in practice is that you don't have to worry about Vengeful Retreating and Fell Rushing back in, or Vengeful Retreating into a bad spot, or wasting the charge back in for Fellblade. This is a major quality of life change that makes the mobility gameplay of Havoc more responsive, more polished, and less annoying. Vengeful Retreat was a button you were using anyway for initiative and tactical retreat, basically crit chance and fury generation, so it won't add complexity to your rotation. If anything, it makes your damage windows make more sense and sync up way better. On top of that, for those that really dislike the playstyle of Momentum, your wish has been granted. Momentum is gone. In its place, we have Exergy now, which works the same way as Inertia, but is a 20 seconds buff for a 5% damage increase. Vengeful Retreat has a 20-second cooldown, and together with the Hunt, you will likely have 100% uptime on this. Although you still have to use Vengeful Retreat to keep it up, it being 20 seconds long means you don't have to stress about using the exact abilities in the exact order in a span of 3 seconds, or you just lose all your damage. And since you should normally use Vengeful Retreat regardless of having momentum style talents selected, this just means that you get more damage for no additional work on your rotation. And if Vengeful Retreating is still something you dislike and would just prefer to sit still and DPS, I know you won't like hearing it, but maybe you shouldn't play Havoc then. There are plenty of melee out there that just sit still until someone moves that you could enjoy. As someone who has played every momentum iteration since the spec came out in Legion, this is the easiest and with the most amount of quality of life momentum playstyle that you ever had. There is no better version, and if Vengeful Retreat is a problem for you, then play something else. That would be like Warriors complaining that charging sucks. With all of these changes, Fel Rush remains a damage ability for Unbound Chaos, which if you don't like to use it for that purpose, then you can just avoid talenting into it and you will not lose out on inertia or exergy. That way, Fel Rush can just remain a movement ability to get you out of sticky situations. And if anything, Unbound Chaos now also affects Fel Blade, so in single target, you really never have to use Fel Rush for damage ever again, even if you talent into Unbound Chaos. Literally all problems have been solved and we haven't even gone to the best parts of Havoc yet. The capstone, any means necessary, has been removed since most of your spells are doing chaos damage anyway. It used to be an interesting talent back in Dragonflight when Havoc had the Elysian Decree talent from Shadowlands that was doing arcane damage. But since that was eventually reworked into Sigil of Spite that does chaos damage baseline, any means necessary started to lose flavor quick. The fact that it was buffing your mastery was indeed good, but that was taken into account when it was removed, and the devs are keeping their eyes on the damage of Havoc to make sure it performs, which they already responded with buffs last week on the PTR servers. And now Havoc is just doing way more damage. In place of any means necessary, we now have Screaming Brutality, a community requested interaction which was the 2-set bonus of the Amir Drasil raid tier set. When you Blade Dance, you automatically throw a glaive at the target, and each slash of Blade Dance has a 50% chance to throw another glaive that hits for 35% of the original damage. You never have to manually press throw glaive ever, and the game will shoot them out when you Blade Dance. Together with the glaive talents, you will have a lot of damage output, especially for the Eldrachi hero talents. Cycle of Hatred has been changed once again, and maybe this is the coolest thing so far. It now gives you a buff every time you I-beam, which reduces the cooldown of I-beam by 5 seconds until it reaches a total cooldown of 20 seconds. So far, the way this buff works is it persists through death, but would drop if you are out of combat for more than 1 minute. Not sure what the final version of this is, but suffice to say, if you play well, you will never drop it. I-beam being 20 seconds cooldown means now it will line up with every Vengeful Retreat to give you in every single inertia window a demonic window as well. Also, if you play Essence Break, you will still line them up and have every other I-beam and demonic as a consequence line up with Essence Break. The fact that all these line up so well makes every 20 seconds a small burst window where you organically fit in 2 DPS concepts, momentum and demonic. The playstyle instantly becomes smoother and easier to manage. Lastly, the Eldrachi talent Wounded Quarry has been improved, where now it will also let you funnel damage into your main target. Considering the raid is mostly AoE and Mythic Plus always liked specs with funnel damage, this is a good addition to put Havoc back on the map with specs like Fire Mage and Enhancement Shaman. If you don't know, funnel damage refers to the combat concept of using other targets present to increase the damage you deal to your main target. Meaning that instead of doing just raw AoE every time, you will do more to one particular target, that one lieutenant boss or big ad in a pack that just casts the nasty stuff. Tuning aside, this is one of the main reasons people preferred Fire Mage for such a long time. Funnel damage is probably the best type of damage dealing you can have for Mythic Plus because it is so efficient when there are so many packs with one target just having double the HP of the rest. Let's talk about playstyles and builds. Disclaimer here, this is not a guide on how to correctly play Havoc, and neither are these the best talents in the game. These are just what people are using on the testing servers before the season starts to gauge the performance of Havoc. There's a good chance that they will change a bit when the season starts, but can also remain the exact same since they are the best at the moment. First, the beloved Felscard retains many similarities. Demon Surge has been soft cap at 8 targets as opposed to unlimited AoE. The reality is that your tank cannot survive pulling more than 8 mobs at a time a lot of the time, so the limitation imposed will not actually be felt by most Havocs. On top of that, the damage has been massively buffed to the point where there are talks about builds called the Oppenheimer. Now that is really on the nose, but fun to mention. Until then, I have massively enjoyed a Fire Inside builds that focus on heavy immolation aura damage, especially since another talent has been buffed as well. Flame Bound from the Felscar tree now makes Immolation Aura have a 50% increased crit damage bonus, up from the live version of 25. This will change your playstyle from wanting to use Sigil of Flame on every burst window to just passively giving more damage to Immolation Aura usage. Again, quality of life and rotational bloat nerf. The Eldrachi alternative for Mythic Plus is almost the same, as you just move a point from Dancing with Fate to Furious Throws. You could realistically make more changes, but for simplicity's sake, this is one of the best builds for big AoE, especially since Eldrachi seems to be the go-to right now. It's not very clear which one is better unless you sim or you legit play the same dungeon with the same people back to back exactly the same. This means that although one hero talent is definitely better than the other, the difference could be so small enough where you won't notice, or at the very least can actually play the one you like and not be forced into something you don't enjoy. Similar for raid and single target, here we actually have some numbers for the two different hero talents that could still change. It seems Eldrachi is more than 10% ahead of Felscard, which is quite a bit if you are a Mythic raider. For everyone else, the difference isn't that high, where it's worth playing Eldrachi if you dislike Glaive playstyle. All of this is to say that you have multiple ways to play Havoc based on what you enjoy, with different capstones, all of them in use, except maybe Fel Barrage. Maybe that can be changed sometime. Having close to no dead talents is a cool thing for those maining Havoc, since that means your class is more complete than at least half of the other specs out there. Essence Break playstyles are different than Immolation Aura playstyles, and the variety is very welcome. Since this is not a guide and things will be perfected as the season launches, I won't focus hard on the rotation, but a few tips to get you started is something we can do. For Felscard in single target, you will play the same as live: Immolation Aura into Sigil of Flame, into the Hunt, I-Beam, Death Sweep into Annihilation. Metamorphosis after this to consume the Demon Surges with Death Sweep, Annihilation, Immolation Aura, and Sigil of Flame, and only after you use I-Beam again, Vengeful Retreat into Fellblade, and then Essence Break into Death Sweep and Annihilation spam. When you don't have meta or the Hunt, simply Sigil of Flame into I-Beam, into Vengeful Retreat, Fellblade back in, Essence Break, and then spam the consumers. In AoE with Felscard, you will likely ignore the Sigil of Flame, since the Student of Suffering buff will be replaced with a Flame Bound most likely, which is just passive. You will also not have Essence Break anymore, but just spam more Immolation Aura since you have a Fire Inside talented. You can still use Sigil of Flame for Fury generation. Eldrachi is probably simpler. In single target, you can start the same, even with Sigil for the Fury, and after you hunt in, you will have a reverse glaive ready. I would immediately Fellblade for Fury, then I-Beam into Death Sweep and Annihilation. Then throw your glaive, pop meta, Vengeful Retreat back, Fellblade back in for the inertia buff, then use Essence Break like you did for Felscard, Death Sweep into Annihilation spam for the optimal single target damage. After every reverse glaive, you want to use Blade Dance before Chaos Strike. This dance makes the second ability do more damage, and in single target, that's going to be Chaos Strike. As for the AoE with Eldrachi, you will play the same as Felscard, but always make sure that after every reverse glaive, you use Annihilation or Chaos Strike first and then Blade Dance, since you want that damage amp to be on Blade Dance and not Annihilation. there's likely more cool stuff coming to Havoc, and I cannot wait. I'm sure the Havoc community will also have guides for those that want to go deeper into it. They usually pop on Wowhead and Icy Veins, and a big shout out to Jelky, a cutting edge Havoc Demon Hunter that has helped us get all this information properly to you. And if you wanted to know how fun Vengeance is compared to the other tanks, you should also check our most fun tanks tier list we recently put out. It's about fun, but it looks like Vengeance will also be pretty good next season. Maybe the best tank?